Forget about rockets and electric cars for a second. The real space race, the one being run by people like Musk and Bezos, isn't really about going to Mars or the moon. It's about moving the actual brain of our digital world completely off the planet. And this isn't science fiction anymore. This is the next great infrastructure battle. So to get why this is even happening, you really need to let this number sink in. 945 terawatt hours. That's how much energy data centers are expected to need every year by 2030. That is more electricity than the entire country of Japan uses. The insane appetite of AI is pushing our planet's grid to the absolute breaking point. And look, it's not just about the power grid, it's our water. A single large data center can drink up to 5 million gallons of fresh water every single day just to stop the servers from overheating. We're literally burning through our energy, our water, and our land just to keep our digital lives running. The way we're doing it now just can't last.
And this is where the whole orbital idea starts to look, well, kind of brilliant. I mean, in space, you've got all the free, unobstructed solar power you could ever want, 24/7. And for cooling, the vacuum of space itself is the ultimate and totally free coolant. Best part? It takes up zero land on Earth. On paper, it's like a perfect solution.
Okay, but is it really that simple? Is putting the heart and soul of our entire information economy into the cold, hostile vacuum of space really our next giant leap? Or is it just an incredibly dangerous fantasy cooked up by a few ambitious billionaires? That's the big question we're going to dig into. Because here's the first big twist. All those obvious reasons, the clean energy, the free cooling, turns out they aren't the real strategic reasons for doing this. The real mission for putting computers in orbit? Well, it's not what you think, and it's probably not for you or me. It all boils down to something called the latency paradox, and you just can't argue with the physics here. For your data to travel from the ground, up a few hundred miles to a satellite, and then all the way back down again, you're looking at about 60 to 190 milliseconds. A fast connection on the ground, that's just 10 to 50 milliseconds. So here's the kicker. For you streaming a movie or playing a game, a data center in space is actually slower.
Right. So if it's not for us, who is it for? This quote here just nails it. The real killer app for computing in orbit isn't about making your internet faster. It's about making the satellites themselves smarter. It's about processing the ridiculous amounts of data that other satellites are collecting, but doing it right there in space, without that slow trip back down to Earth.
And these are the real customers. I mean, imagine an Earth observation satellite that's spitting out 10 gigabytes of data every single second. Instead of trying to beam all that raw data down, you just process it up there. Or what about training a massive AI model using that limitless clean energy? That's a job that would literally buckle a city's power grid down here. Or, and this is a big one, running top-secret national security programs in a totally isolated, untouchable fortress floating above the planet.
But even with a mission that valuable, this is no sure thing, not by a long shot. The path forward is filled with danger. There are these huge, hidden problems that could just stop the whole vision in its tracks. So let's unpack the 4 big existential threats waiting out there in the void.
We're talking about constant space radiation that just fries electronics. A sky that's basically a high-speed shooting gallery of space junk. The simple fact that you can't send a repairman when a server breaks. And this huge legal black hole over who even owns data when it's not on any country's soil. So let's start with radiation. Get this. Hewlett-Packard ran a test on the International Space Station, and they found that 45% of standard solid-state drives just failed. 45%, that's almost half. And that leaves you with a brutal choice. Either pay 100 times more for slow, old, radiation-hardened tech, or just accept that you're going to be constantly launching replacements for fried equipment. Then there's the junk. Low Earth orbit is already a cosmic minefield. You got over 120 million pieces of debris whipping around at 17,000 miles an hour. Just last year, one rocket breakup added over 700 new bullets to the chaos. We're getting dangerously close to something called the Kessler syndrome, a chain reaction of collisions that could create a permanent wall of shrapnel around Earth, trapping us here for generations. Now, let's talk about the maintenance paradox. Here on Earth, the main hardware in a data center is good for, say, 15 to 20 years. But in orbit, cutting-edge tech is basically obsolete in just 3 to 5 years. So how do you upgrade it? The simple answer is you can't. Not yet, anyway. We just don't have the robots to do that at scale. You're stuck launching incredibly expensive gear that you know will be outdated almost the second it gets there. And finally, you get to the ultimate political question. If your data is physically floating in the vacuum of space, which country's laws apply? The US has something called the Cloud Act, which lets the government get data from American companies no matter where it is. But Europe is pushing hard for its own digital sovereignty. These data centers aren't just servers, they're the battlegrounds of the future. So, yeah, the challenges are immense. But what happens if they're actually overcome? Well, the ripple effect on industries down here on Earth would be absolutely staggering. We're not just talking about a new market. This is a technology that could fundamentally reshape the entire cloud computing world. Right now, the cloud is run by the giants, AWS, Azure, Google, because they have this massive scale on the ground. But what if a company like SpaceX makes launch costs plummet? Suddenly, the total cost of running a data center in orbit could become 65 to 70% cheaper than one on Earth. All of a sudden, the huge walls protecting those tech giants don't look so high anymore.
All right, so where is all of this actually heading in the next 5 or 10 years? When you weigh the powerful reasons to do it against all these incredible risks, our analysis really points to 3 distinct, pretty probable futures. So here's how we see it breaking down. The most likely outcome, sitting at a 60% probability, is a kind of hybrid model. But there's a very real 25% chance that a single company ends up with a near monopoly, and a 15% risk that this whole grand idea just stalls out completely. Let's walk through each one. The most likely future is a 2-tiered system. Think of it like this. Data centers on the ground will keep handling most of our normal day-to-day stuff. But the facilities in orbit, they become the elite specialists, the special forces you call in for the biggest jobs. Training huge AI models, analyzing satellite data in real time, and handling ultra-secure government work. They work with the cloud. They don't replace it. Scenario 2 is where things get truly wild. If SpaceX's Starship makes launch costs basically nothing, like they promise, they could build a whole separate cloud infrastructure in space, one that you can only access through their Starlink network. That would create a private monopoly on a critical piece of global infrastructure, and the geopolitical and antitrust questions that raises are just immense. And then there's the pessimistic outcome. Basically, the nations of the world just can't agree on the rules of the road. Fearing for national security, the US, Europe, China, they all go off and build their own separate siloed systems that can't talk to each other. The space debris problem gets worse, insurance costs go through the roof, and the whole industry just grinds to a halt, leaving billions of dollars of investment stranded in orbit. So, after weighing the incredible potential against these truly existential risks, what's the ultimate takeaway? What's the one crucial thing you need to remember from all this? It's this. This race isn't really about faster computers or clean energy. It's about control. It's a geopolitical struggle for who will own and operate the most critical infrastructure of our digital economy. Plain and simple, it is a battle for power. You know, for centuries, controlling the seas and the skies, that meant geopolitical dominance. Now, a whole new frontier, a new high ground is opening up right above our heads. And the question this multi-trillion-dollar gamble leaves us with is a simple and pretty urgent one. Who's going to control it?